from our night's sleep. And as we sit up on the edge of the bed, we feel kind of a quickening within us. It's as if we look around the room and things seem clearer, colors seem brighter. And it's on those days that it's as if an inner voice speaks to us. I like to call it the challenge of life, calling to us to come out and to possess life in a fuller and richer measure than ever before. And it's at those times that we're able to look at what we've done, our performance, our achievement to date, the lesser self looking at the present and back into the past. And we're able to measure that against our potential, which we intuitively perceive. Now that's the magic of it. That's the excitement of it in that phrase. Our potential, which we intuitively perceive. That means we know what our potential is without ever having experienced it. That's a divine faculty in a human being. No other animal has that capacity. The pig in the barnyard will always behave as a pig. And we never expect it to behave as a cat and to catch mice, or as a horse to pull a plow. Only a human being can be human and more. Now, we have a faculty that enables us to look across that great chasm from what we've been and where we are to what we intuitively perceive we're capable of doing and being. And that faculty is the imagination. Now, the imagination can be used as a two-edged sword. It can work for us or against us. If we fill our mind and our imagination with catastrophic expectations, what is expected tends to be realized. It was a long time ago in the Old Testament when Job said, "The things that I have feared have come upon me." And that was a great psychological discovery, a breakthrough, if you will. Because Job realized that by imagining the things that he didn't want and generating fear, emotionalizing that image, that somehow in a process that to this very day is dimly understood, he set into motion a blueprint, created a blueprint, and set into motion forces known and unknown to bring to him what he didn't want. And so those of us who fear rejection develop lifestyles and adaptations guaranteed to produce rejection. Those who have an intense fear of criticism develop lifestyles guaranteed to produce criticism. Those who fear failure develop styles and approaches guaranteed to result in failure. And here's the important thing. If we don't get rejected quickly enough, we become self-rejecting. If we aren't criticized often enough, we become intensely self-critical. And if we don't fail through circumstances enough, we become self-saboteurs. We sabotage our own efforts. What is expected has a powerful tendency to be realized. Why? Because the brain and nervous system responds only to images, nothing more. If you're asleep in your bed and you're having a nightmare, you're safe and comfortable. Doors and windows are locked. But your brain and nervous system doesn't know that. And so your heart pounds at a rapid rate. You break out into a cold sweat. And perhaps the terror feelings cause you to awaken. And even after you're awakened, it's 30 minutes or more before you're back to normal and can consider going back to sleep. Now, dreaming is only one kind of mental activity. We have daydreaming, the creative use of the imagination. What does that Olympic athlete imagine? Well, he sees himself winning. He imagines standing on the dais and receiving the gold medal while the national anthem plays. That is, if he's a winner, he does. Others, as they get into the blocks, ready for the race, the thought goes into their mind, well, this fella in the next lane has beaten me 7 consecutive times. I've never beaten him. I guess this is just not my day. I'll be lucky to come in second. You know where he comes in, don't you? What is expected tends to be realized because the brain and nervous system responds only to a mental image. And so that's what we're going to deal with here, to develop the expectancy to achieve our goals, to develop the expectancy to solve our problems, to develop the expectancy to cope with the exigencies of our life, to overcome feelings of helplessness. And the urgency of that is, if in any area of your life you cling to those feelings of helplessness, you learn to develop a secondary payoff to get sympathy or attention, or to punish yourself, to punish others, to avoid the responsibility of doing and being and succeeding. And in that payoff, you become habituated to that expectancy of not doing what it is that you know that you can do. A part of you knows that you can do. And so we're setting out now to give you that control. The development of mental expectancy. For what is expected has a powerful tendency to be realized. Now, I told you earlier that hypnosis occurs instantly, and gave you a brief demonstration in the last session. I'm going to show you how easy it is, because I'm going to line up a group of you along here, and I'm just going to come along. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to shake your hand. And in shaking your hand, you'll go into a trance right then. That's all it takes. When I come up to you, you will look at me, shake my hand, and using this handshake technique, you will go into a trance. Now, I want to say to you that you can stand in that trance. I'll take care of your balance. You needn't concern yourself with that. Do not fall to the floor. It just gets too inconvenient to have the body scattered all over the floor. All right? So let's start right. We'll take these first two rows, come up, and I want you to form a line right along back through here, just like that. All right? Just go on back there. That's it. That's it. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to do. Come up here and stand in front of me. You right behind that lady, up in close, and right behind, in closer. That's it. Now, there's one important thing I have to say to you, sir. I get all the laughs here. If you want to get laughs, you have to get your own auditorium and your own crowd. All right? Now, when you put your hand in mine, you look straight at me, stand and sleep. Right here, look at me, and sleep. Stand loosely, limply, relaxed. I want you to come right up, put your hand in mine, look at me, and sleep. Close your eyelids down, head forward. Just rest and stand in perfect balance. Loosely, limply relaxed. That's fine. Way down. I want you to come up close, because your head's going to go right up here. See? Look at me, and sleep. That's good. Relax all over now in perfect balance. Come up in closer. Your head's going to go right there on her shoulder. Put your hand right here. Look at me. Sleep. That's fine. Relax all over now. Loosely, limply relaxing. Come right up in here. Put your hand in mine. Look at me. Sleep. That's it. Way down. Loosely, limply relax. Go much deeper now. That's fine. In close. Want your head to go right there. Put your hand in mine. Look at me. Sleep. That's fine. Way down. Up close. That's good. Put your hand in mine. Look at me. Take a deep breath. Sleep. Go down. That's it. Limply, loosely relaxing. Look at me. Sleep. Relax. That's fine. Now let every muscle and every nerve grow loose and limp and relaxed. And you can continue going deeper with each easy breath that you take. That's the nature of your mind and your brain and nervous system, to just continue relaxing as you continue to enjoy this trance. For the balance of this weekend, whenever I'm working with you, all that's necessary for me to do is to simply look at you, say two words, sleep now, and I'll snap my fingers like this, and on the finger snap, your eyelids close down, you go deeply into hypnosis. All right, at the count of three then, eyelids open, 1, 2, 3. Let your eyelids open, straighten up, straighten up. Okay, your name is Lynn. Lynn, here's your signal from now on. Look, I'll just say those two words. The words are sleep now, snap my fingers. Watch, sleep now, eyelids close down. You go deeply into hypnosis. That's fine. Now you'll notice how her head will drop when I release it. That's that extraordinary quality of mental, physical, and emotional relaxation I spoke of just a few moments ago. Remember I talked about the fact that the critical factor of the conscious mind closes down. Now, it doesn't disappear. It just steps aside so that you can accept ideas and exhibit behavior that's different from your previous behavior in that area. Watch. Lynn, bring the palms of your hands together now. Interlock your fingers. Stiffen your arms. That's good. Lock your elbows. Squeeze your fingers tightly against the backs of your hand, even tighter. Now, Lynn, when I snap my fingers this time, your hands lock so tightly closed, the more you try to pull your hands apart, the tighter they're locking closed. Try now to pull your hands apart, you'll find they're stuck tight. Now, Lynn, I'll tap your forehead, you can open your eyes, and even though your eyelids are open, there's nothing you can do or say or think that enables you to pull your hands apart. Open your eyes, look at your hands. When you're satisfied they're indeed stuck together, say aloud the words, I'm satisfied.
I'm satisfied.
Sleep now, close your eyelids down. I'll pull your hands apart. That's fine. All right, and drop them limply by your side. Now, I'm going to give you a different signal, Lynn. In addition to the one I just gave you, from this time forward, whenever I look at you and touch the lobe of my right ear, your eyelids close down, you go deeply into hypnosis. Whenever I touch the lobe of my right ear, your eyelids close, you go deeply into hypnosis. When I count to 3, open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes. What do you think of all this?
It's wonderful.
Are you surprised at how well and how easily and quickly you respond?
I've never gone into that quickly.
Now, this is very important. When you talk to certain kinds of people, physicians and other licensees in the healing arts, and mention hypnosis, most of them will say, oh, I used to study hypnosis, but I gave it up because it takes too long. How long does it take? You see. Now, these physical tests are only to demonstrate to the person being hypnotized that they are indeed in a trance. As we go along with some of these other people, I will show you some of these other tests. Now, Lynn, for the rest of this weekend now, whenever you see me pull the lobe of my right ear, your eyelids will close, you go deeply in sleep. Now, that takes place in this room. Obviously, it wouldn't take place outside, or if you're crossing the street, or in any circumstance in which you didn't have a complete environment of safety and comfort in responding this way. When I count to 3, let your eyelids open. 1, 2, 3, let them open. All right, fine. Show your appreciation to Lynn as she sits down. What do you think of all that? Pull your feet together, turn a little bit, look at me. Now, I'm going to do a little differently with you, Bob. Let your arm hang down. Just look right here. Eyelids heavy, droopy, drowsy, sleepy. They're closing, closing, close them and sleep, Bob. That's good. Way down. Every muscle and every nerve just so loose and so limp and so relaxed that you feel good all over. Now, I said I would demonstrate to you physical tests which are only designed for one thing, to bring to the subject an awareness that they're indeed in a trance. Bob, I'm going to count from 5 down to 1, and as I do, your eyelids lock so tightly closed, the more you try to open them, the tighter they're locking closed. 5, eyelids pressing down tightly. 4, they're pressing down and sealing shut. 3, sealing as if they were glued. 2, they're locked. The more you try to open them, the tighter they're locking closed. 1, now try to open your eyelids. You see they're stuck tight, they just won't open. Make a try and satisfy yourself. Now stop trying, relax, and just sleep deeply. That's good. Now you see, at this point, the deductive reasoning of the subconscious mind says, he told me my eyelids would be locked closed. They are locked closed. Now he says to go deeper in sleep, and so that's what I do. You see, that's the deductive principle. We also call it the compounding of suggestion, based on this rule. Each time the nervous system accepts and acts upon a given suggestion, it becomes easier for it to accept and act upon the next time. That's called a pattern of response has developed. You understand that, Lynn? Is it very clear to you, dear? All right, fine. And you see that Lynn's post-hypnotic response has indeed become a part of her functioning just in the manner that I described it and just the way I gave it to her. Lynn has gone into a trance. Now, Lynn, when I count to 3, please open your eyes, straighten your head. 1, 2, 3, open your eyes. Bob, when I count to 3, you may open your eyes. 1, 2, 3, open your eyes. What do you think of all this that's going on?
Impressed.
Yeah. For the ones who haven't experienced this, are you aware of what's going on?
Yeah.
Did you hear me talking about
I
Lynn?
knew exactly what she was
Yeah.
doing.
You knew that when I touched my ear, that she went into a trance just like that, didn't she? Sure. And I think of all the doctors who said to me, well, I used to study hypnotism, but it takes too long. If you remember in the film Equus, Richard Burton was in the film, and it was also produced on the stage. And this young man who was so disturbed went to see Richard Burton, who was the psychiatrist. And he hypnotized him, and he gave him a post-hypnotic signal, which wasn't really very much different from this. Who remembers what that post-hypnotic signal was for the reinduction of trance? Did say these are drama students, didn't you? He said, whenever I tap my pen on the desk 3 times like this, 2, 3, your eyelids will close and you'll go deeply into trance. Each day when the young man arrived for his session, how are you today? Please be seated. The young man sat down, he tapped his pen on the desk 3 times, and the young man went into a trance. Now that's not a bit different from what we're doing here, is it? Lynn, open your eyes, sit up, feel good all over now. Bob, put your hand on mine. Look at me. When I count to 3, press down on my hand as if you're going to press it right down to the floor. Now remember, this is not a tug of war, just a good strong press, because I'm going to push up to push your hand up, all right? 1, 2, 3, press down as hard as you can. Harder, harder, closing, close them. Sleep, Bob. That's fine. Way down, loosely, limply relax. Now, what I show you as inductions are really just rituals, you see? And later I'm going to explain that there's no such thing as a hypnotic induction. That's just a ritual. A necessary ritual. But that's not what induces the trance. When I count to 3, Bob, open your eyes, straighten up. 1, 2, 3. What do you think of all that? Interesting. No, impressive. That's Bob's key word. All right, he's impressed. Show your appreciation to Bob. Isn't this the darndest stuff you ever saw?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you think it was like that when you first thought about it?
No.
No. Okay, well, just turn this way. Now I'm going to show you a non-verbal trance induction. I'm not going to say a word. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that there are many ways that suggestions are given. And verbally is only one of many. And I'll let you think about that, and later I'm going to give you a little quiz as to the various forms of suggestion, how it works, and so on. Nothing mystical. It wasn't mental telepathy or anything like that. I just gave the suggestion other than non-verbally. When I count to 3, open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. What took place there as you felt your eyelids closing and felt yourself going into a trance? Tell these good folk what kind of feeling, sensation, and thought process was taking place.
It was like a smooth releasing of everything that went down my body. And everything relaxed right with your hand movement.
Okay. So you see, each person develops their own little system, their own little method of discharging their tensions. Yeah. What's your name there, right behind Lynn?
Marty.
Marty? Come up for just a minute. See, I noticed something when I looked at Marty. And when you're working with people, stand over on this side. When you're working with people, it's always important to observe because you pick up little signals, provided you know what to look for, right?
Okay.
And as I watched her watching you, I saw something that sent a message to me, okay?
Okay.
Sleep! Both of you down deep, very deep and relaxed. I've got you now. That's good. See, so once in a while you do 2 at a time. Just to keep in practice to show that you can do that. She's frowning back there, and she said, "What's going on up there? I just don't understand it." Well, you're not supposed to understand it. You're just supposed to do it. You see, if you stop trying to understand it, you'll start doing it. That's the key. Because I can do this all day long, it doesn't mean anything. What means something is when you start saying, "Yeah, there really is such a thing as a trance, and a trance works for everyone. And if it worked for everyone, it'll work for me, won't it?" Think about it now. that little lady right there, won't it?
Maybe.
Yeah, you know what to say about that. When I count to 3, then open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Come up now. Did you expect that I was going to put you in a trance like that?
No, I didn't.
No. Talk about your sensations. What did that feel like?
Oh, it was just instant relaxation.
Yeah. See how instantly she relaxes? Look. All the hypnotic induction is, and this is important, it's a contract. I say to the subject, I want you to go into a trance. And they say, okay. That's it. Why do they say okay? That's the key question, and I'll let you think about that while I work with some more people. When I count to 3, open your eyes. 1, 2, 3, open your eyes. Show your appreciation of these 2 lovely ladies. Thank you very much. Why do you think that these people say okay within themselves when I indicate I want you to go into a trance?
Rapport.
Anyone?
Rapport.
Rapport is a good word, and that's within the rapport. There's some other words.
Trust.
Trust.
I think they feel that there will be a benefit to them if they do.
Okay, they're looking for a benefit. They've come to recognize there is a benefit. They trust me and my competence to deal with them, and I have developed rapport with the group at this point. Because unlike an academic lecturer who spent hours and hours telling you about, I'm up here doing it. I said, yeah, he really can do exactly what he said he did. Well, ladies and gentlemen, do you think that I would indicate that I can do certain things unless I knew 100% for sure, positively, without a shadow of a doubt, that I could do exactly what I tell you I'm going to do? I'm not necessarily the smartest man in the world, but I'm certainly not stupid. Well, I guess that's a judgment. From my point of view, I'm not. That makes it correct. Yeah. All right. Scott, as you watch all this, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm just impressed, and I wonder how it happens, but I try not to analyze it too much.
Good. Now you're getting the message. You see, the more I analyze, the more I inhibit my own response. And so what I'm saying is, you don't need to analyze a thing. Sleep, Scott. That's fine. Come right down. Now, I've got you. That's good. Relax all over and go way down. That's good. All right. And you can see by the very quality of Scott's responsiveness, I'm going to catch his head down here as I let it drop, you see, that he's indeed in a trance. Now, you notice I hardly use the words like deep, because who knows what a deep trance is? That's an old, outmoded concept. You just go into a trance. Now, Scott, when I count to 3, please open your eyes and come on up on your feet. 1, 2, 3, open your eyes. What are you doing down on the floor for a minute? Yeah.
See what you told me.
Now he's got the idea. See, when Lynn was up here, she did everything I told her to do, didn't she? She thinks that's funny. Look at me. Close your eyelids down now. Closing. Sleep. And just drifting over to your right. Catch her. Over to your right. That's it. And go deep asleep. Take a look at her now. What do you think of all that that's going on alongside you?
I'm amazed.
I hope so, for your sake. Lynn, please open your eyes. Stop falling asleep. I think she just wants to get better acquainted with you. That's all. What's your parting comment as you leave the group here?
I'm ready to lay down and do some more.
No comment. Show your appreciation to Scott. Cindy,
Yeah.
what do you think of all this?
nervous.
Nervous. Suppose I change the word for you, all of you and help you to have a better control. Say to me, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Sure. Now, you see, all excitement that you experience is an excitement in the nervous system. But if you say, I'm nervous, that sounds kind of negative, doesn't it? If you say, I'm excited, that sounds very positive. And yet, what you're feeling is just the same thing, isn't it? So from now on, instead of telling people you're nervous, what will you tell them?
I'm excited.
Sure, especially when you're around good-looking men. Say, honey, I'm excited. The devil made me say it. Yeah. What do you want to use hypnosis for, Cindy?
Self-improvement.
Be more specific. By the way, I want to tell you something. You can't improve the self. Who knows why not? The self is perfect. That's right. And all you can do is integrate those parts of yourself that you despise and stop trying to amputate them. The moment you stop trying to chop them off and push them away, all of a sudden you gain control of them and you manage them. And soon they're gone as behavior patterns. What specifically do you want to work on?
I want to find a purpose in life.
Okay. Let's talk about that. Come on up closer to me. That's a very, very important point. You know, the highest number of suicides occur in the ages from about 14 to 25. And it's part of that search, a purpose in life. When people have kind of closed down that imaginative faculty that we use to reassure us that somewhere in the world are the people, the circumstances, and the situations that will one day come together to help us to fill our deepest needs. And what are they? Well, after the physical needs for food, shelter, and clothing, there are needs for acceptance, affection, love, and approval. And when we get those reasonably satisfied, we can move to the next level, which is our need to actualize our potential, to be all that we can be, to express our uniqueness in the world, whatever level it may be. When we close down that imaginative faculty that we've used to reassure ourselves that circumstance and people and events will come together to help us to fill our needs, we begin to approach a state called despair. Despair is a product of hopelessness. Now, none of you are really feeling hopeless, because if you were, you wouldn't be here. Once you reach hopelessness, what's left is one of two things. As you approach that line, either enter into anti-life behavior. And you all know what that is. That's addictions. Addictions to what? To food, to drugs, to alcohol, to sex, to all kinds of behavior that is counterproductive. Or you can reach a point in which you become very desperate, very anxious, and you can face your readiness you can face your need for change. You see, William James said, Cindy, all human beings resist change. Until when? Until they reach a point of readiness for change. Well, that sounds kind of dumb, like you're not ready for change until you're ready for change. But that's the way it is. In a moment, I'm going to tell you how we get ready for change. In other words, how do we overcome that powerful resistance to change? How do we get to the point of being ready for change? Because here's the good news. Here's the message. Again, I'm going to quote the same great psychologist, the Apostle Paul. He said, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And then he told how long it took. "Be ye transformed in the twinkling of an eye." When you've reached a point of readiness for change, that's how long it takes. A twinkling of an eye. Now, you see, I can't predict if you're at that place of readiness for change. No one can, not even you. You can say, "I've suffered enough. I'm ready for change." I say, "I hope so, for both our sake." My role as the therapist is to help you to get right up to that launching pad where you are indeed ready for change. You see? What is it about yourself? You say, I want to discover, a purpose in life. Talk a little more about that, because I think there's a lot that they can get from that. How does it feel not to be uncertain or not to know if you have a purpose in life?
Empty.
Empty. Sure. It's a feeling of emptiness. Yeah. How have you tried to deal with the feeling of emptiness till now?
Till now, probably my eating.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And it's important. See, here's a young woman. If she doesn't cope with the feeling of emptiness now, she can go deeper into that addiction, and in 20 years can be one of those people waddling around at 425 pounds. And then within another 5 or 10 years, just drop dead. One of my dearest friends was a man came in, and he was the son of a physician. Marvelous, marvelous black man who worked in the black community with his dad, helping people to come off of hard drugs, using hypnotherapy. And Carlos weighed almost 500 pounds when I met him, and we did a little work together over a period of time, and he came down to 285. But somehow he just crept back up, and one day, age 37, he just fell over dead and left a widow and 3 little children. And every time I see someone that size, I feel that feeling of grief for someone who has that compulsive addiction, because I know it's going to cut their life short, and it's going to leave others behind that are going to grieve for them. It's important, too, to let the person know what the consequences are. Because when you have a relationship, you can communicate images much more powerfully than if they read them in a book. In a book, they're just the facts and statistics. When I just looked at you, you knew I was speaking from here, didn't you? And that's a true story, and that there's a lot of feeling attached to it. All right. There's a lot of feeling in you. I can see it in your eyes. I think that you have a great need to really give to others and to help to others once you learn to deal with yourself. Yeah. Show your appreciation to Cindy. Okay, and that says Margaret. That was my mother's name, Margaret. Margaret, what do you think of all this that's going on up here?
I'm impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of happy about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, you know what that often means, happy in this kind of a circumstance? It says, gee, I think I'm coming to a position where I can believe that it's possible for me to change. You see, we all suffer from a cynical disbelief in our own ability to direct our own energy in our own behalf. We all know others can change. We just have doubts about us, don't we? And so that cynical disbelief, that conditioned helplessness, and suddenly you reach a point when you say, maybe this is the day, maybe this is the moment, the time, the person, the book, the sermon, the hypnotist that can really move me to know, to believe, to develop a conviction that, like all the rest of God's creatures, I too can change. Hallelujah! Isn't it beautiful?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll show you appreciation. I've been very pleased to watch you as you struggled a little bit, and then suddenly your natural responsiveness began to flow out of you. Yeah. Can you talk about that? That little difference from where you had some trouble in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it just seemed to smooth out?
Well, I was being too analytical about the whole situation. First of all, this aroused my curiosity. Hypnotism. Wow. Okay. Self-hypnotism, even more so. And I thought, okay, well, I can make use of this. I can use it for myself to better my psyche, to better my train of thought. So that's, now I somewhat satisfied the curiosity and just want to go more into it. I want to just, you know.
Okay, let's do that. Close your eyes. No, that wasn't a nonverbal. I just whispered it. That was for the people who said, oh, he shouts them into it. I also whispered them. Keep them confused. The minute they think they've got you figured out, they go back to the old cynical position. You figured it out now. Yeah. Now, the more I rock you, the deeper into hypnosis you're going. Way down, loosely, limply relaxed. Listen carefully. I'm going to raise your arm as I count to 3, and when I drop it, temporarily, the number 5 will drop out of your mind and memory, and any effort to recall it will cause your mind to grow blank, and any effort to speak it will cause your throat right in here to lock up tightly. All right, 1, 2, 3, you're forgetting, forgotten, and gone. I tap your forehead. I want you to begin counting by ones in this manner. 1, 2, 3, and so on. Begin.
1.
Good.
2.
Fine.
3.
Good.
4.
Good. What is the next number? Go beyond it.
6. 7. 8. 9. 10.
Good.
11.
How much is 1 and 1?
2.
2 and 1?
3.
2 and 2?
4.
How much is 2 and 3? 2 and 3. 3 and 3?
6.
If we have 8 and take away 2, how many are left?
6.
If we have 7 and take away 2, how many are left? I just continue relaxing and sleeping. Now, when you sit down at that examination table and you say, why can't I think of that answer? I knew it so well. There's an inhibition. A suggestion says, I probably won't remember it when I need it. Now, the only difference between what I did here and what you do to yourself when you sit down to take that examination is that here you identified the suggestion because you heard me speak it. But it's exactly the same result. I'm going to raise your arm once again. This time when I drop it temporarily, you'll forget your own name. All right, 1, 2, 3, forgetting, forgotten, and gone. What city do you live in?
LA.
Los Angeles. What state is that in?
California.
Good. What is your name? You've forgotten your name. What is your name?
I don't know.
I'm going to remind you. Now listen carefully. I'm going to remind you of your name, and from afterward, then, whenever I say, what is your name, tell me your name, you can instantly reply. Your name is Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale. What is your name?
Florence Nightingale.
Of course it is. All right, open your eyes. Well, Florence, you've done a wonderful job up here. And you know, you're acquainted with her name, aren't you? Mm-hmm. All right. And is there anything you'd like to ask her, this gentleman here?
What's your name?
Florence Nightingale. I think.
So now we come down to the best remembered fact of one's life. From the time you were a tiny infant in the crib, you were called by your name. Tell me your name.
Florence Nightingale.
I wish the camera could see the look on her face. She says, what in the world is going on over there? Yeah. What is going on over there?
Charlie.
Yeah. 2 and 2 is?
4.
Okay. 2 and 3? Have you always had trouble with mathematics? No. Yes. And now, you know, many times, one of the things I'm best known for, and I've done a number of films that are sold at colleges and universities, the cure of stutters. I cure stutters very rapidly. And that's because I have a special understanding of stutters, because stuttering is only a habit, just sleep. Now, in a moment, I'm going to have you open your eyes, and when you do, you're going to find, for some strange reason, that whenever you make an effort to speak the letter P, it just won't come out. It'll come, and the more you try, the worse it gets. When I count to 3, open your eye. 1, 2, 3, look at me. Repeat after me, please. Try to repeat this. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Are you ready? All right. It goes like this. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Are you ready?
Okay.
Here we go. Ready? How long have you had this problem?
I've never had this problem. I think it's
Sleep and relax. All right. This lady was able to accept a suggestion that inhibited her natural function of speech. And that's why I was saying a suggestion can cause you to behave differently in an area of your behavior. Now, let's go back to a couple of things. Rapport, confidence, trust, a safe situation. So she can allow herself. And most importantly, there's nothing I've done here that threatens her or is in conflict with her values, her character attitudes, her religious beliefs, or her moral principles. You see? Because those kind of suggestions would immediately generate powerful conflict. Can you understand that now? All right. I know that Lynn does. When I count to 3, please open your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Open your eyes. All right. Show your appreciation to this lady, please. Last but certainly not least, you are...
I remember my name.
You're sure now? All right. What do you think of all this that's been going on, this little demonstration?
Well, it's crazy.
It sure is. Yeah. Crazy in the sense of it is so different from not only the way we normally behave, but the way the so-called experts have explained hypnotism or failed to explain it to you in the past. So no matter which position you're in, I know nothing about hypnotism, boy, that really looks crazy, or I've read all the books by the experts, and that really looks crazy the way he does it, you're still confused, aren't you? Just sleep. Go right on down now. That's a boy. Limply, loosely relaxed. Yep. The purpose of this demonstration is to drive from your mind the misunderstandings and misconceptions, to help you to understand it's a natural, simple process. I've done it in such a way to make it look a little bit mysterious. It really isn't. I'm going to undo all the mystery from it. But I've chosen this as a means of dramatizing it in order to excite your imagination and develop your mental expectancy. When I count to 3, Steve, open your eyes and come on up on your feet. 1, 2, 3, come right up. Well, how'd you feel about all that?
Fine.
Good. Accept it now?
Mm-hmm.
It's strange but okay, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you get into new things. Strange but okay. Show your appreciation to Steve. I promised you I would teach you how you reach a point of readiness for change. How you overcome that resistance to change that William James talked about. I've isolated 3 ways. The first is suffering. Now, suffering can be mental, physical, or psychic. When I say psychic, I mean emotional. Physical suffering, pick any symptom. In a great book of some years past, Dr. John Schindler developed his theory of what he called emotionally induced illness. The book title was How to Live 365 Days a Year. He said the subconscious mind can and does produce the symptoms of any ailment known to medical science. Now, he didn't eliminate any. He didn't say except athlete's foot or except leprosy or whatever. He just said produce the symptoms. We've been working on a film now for about 5 months with an old friend of mine. Went through my classes many years ago, and he developed Parkinson's syndrome. You all know what that is. In this case, his arm trembles all the time. And I've trained him with self-hypnosis that the minute his arm trembles, he just takes a deep breath off it and just stills right down. And on these films that we've done, we've trained him. He can make his arm tremble so violently it looks like it's going to fly off his shoulder by doing it with his mind, and then he can just reverse the process, and it just instantly becomes still. You see? And now that same man has tried going into a group of people who all have the same ailment. And he gave one demonstration, and he was told by the people in charge that that wasn't an appropriate demonstration. He asked why, and they said, it brings a false hope to the people who are suffering from this. I don't know what that means when he can demonstrate it, you see. Of course, there's pathology existing. But the point is, he, instead of being immobilized by fear, he's in control. And when, for whatever reason, the stress triggers that reaction, he can control it. He can stop it. He said, before, I used to spend all of my energy all day long worrying about my arm shaking. Now I can do other things knowing that if it shakes, I can control it. You see? That's the power of the mind that we're talking about. The power either to be immobilized by negative ideas and say, I'm helpless, and listen to the thoughts and ideas of others whose training has never incorporated the concept that you're the most powerful creature in the universe to our knowledge. We may go to see pictures of spacemen and spaceships, but that's fantasy and fiction, and we've never seen any yet. We're the only spacemen to our knowledge. And we're the only ones with power. And we're the only ones that have had a conspiracy all these years that the people who hold themselves out to be our helpers have hidden from us our power to use in our own behalf and brainwashed us so that we feel helpless. That's what conditioned helplessness is all about. And that's why you're here now. As you watch this demonstration of trance inductions and so on, I'm sure there were thoughts and ideas, maybe even questions processing through your mind. And so we'll deal with that now. There's only one thing I'm going to request. The only way you can be picked up on this tape is with that microphone right there. So if you have a question, you want to speak, stand up and throw your voice at that shotgun microphone. All right, let's hear from you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I noticed when Lynn would go into a trance that like sometimes you would laugh or smile.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you were aware of what was going on, and even you thought it was funny. And yet could you explain a little bit of that? Because I found it a little curious.
I want to have Lynn explain, but you see, you did certain pre-programming in your question of her. You said even you thought it was funny. Now, that's an interpretation. You say, if she had a smile, she must have thought it was funny. I've smiled many times without it being funny. So we want to strike that from the record, as a lawyer would say in court, and say, I noticed a pleasant smile on your lips at times. Can you make a comment about your smile? Rather than interpreting that she was thinking or feeling something funny. Okay?
When he did it, it was like, there was a sense of amusement, definitely. There's also some tension involved, knowing that I'm kind of in a spotlight when he does that every time.
Sure. Smiling is a release of tension.
But, yeah,
just as crying is. Yeah.
I was very, very much aware of what was going on. I felt myself going under every time he put his fingers on his earlobe.
Yeah. And again, I don't want you to have the misunderstanding that if a person is hypnotized, they instantly become zombie-like. Instead, you'll discover it's like, you used the term split personality, a little joke a little while ago. It is like, for the first time, you become aware of two levels of awareness. This part, the critical factor, sits over here and says, look at that going on. Isn't that the darndest thing you ever saw? Here she says her name is Florence Nightingale. Or, here I'm saying my name is Florence Nightingale. Let's check that out. Where is she? Where is that lady? Wasn't there a part of your mind as you said your name was Florence Nightingale was thinking, is that really right?
Yeah. I was wondering.
Sure. When did I become Florence Nightingale? And so, that part that sits aside, the critical factor, can smile in amusement. Darndest thing I ever saw. And the other part continues functioning. One time in the classroom, the class was ending. It was the end of a long series of classes, 150 hours of training. And I said, on the final night, they had asked me about putting on a stage show of hypnotism. So on the final night, I'm going to put on that show. And here's the best part. You can bring friends, relatives, and family members, and especially those who have never been hypnotized, because we'll use them in the show. So on that night, This lady was, I had 12 chairs, and she was in chair number 1. Now, part of the show was I hallucinate or create an airplane trip and take them on a trip to Hawaii, and all kinds of eventful things happen, and they respond. Well, after it was all over, I said, now I'm going to do something that isn't done in the nightclub. I'm going to have each person talk about their experience. And I said to her, what was the most vivid, the most realistic part of that experience? This was a show that lasted about an hour, and many, many suggestions. See, they got hot and cold and all kinds of things. And I said, what was the most vivid part of your experience? And she said, well, nothing. She said, you said I was in an airplane, but I knew I was in a chair right here in front of the room. And I said, wasn't there anything in that experience at all that was in any way different or created any kind of a feeling? And she thought for a minute, and she said, well, I did start to feel nauseous. Then she paused, and she said, but there's nothing unusual about that. I get airsick every time I go on a plane. There's a perfect example of the two levels of mind. One part says I'm sitting in a chair in front of the room, but the subconscious mind that's responding, and now the plane is taking off, and all of that is responding with the feeling in her stomach. You see? So hypnotism gives you that marvelous opportunity to really discover what Dr. Freud said many, many years ago. Yes, there are two levels of operation of mind. One, we have a reasonable degree of awareness, and the other, we have little awareness of. Yeah. All right, someone else. Yes.
Two questions.
Throw your voice right up at that microphone.
Two questions, they both have sort of the same kind of answer, I suspect. Is the length of time that someone would stay in that trance. Marty, you had sleeping. I didn't notice that you pulled her out, but all of a sudden she was out.
Mm-hmm.
And with Charlie, she had the different name and the inability to remember 5. Mm-hmm. But then has that stopped, and if so, what stopped it?
Okay. The question really is, based again on old kind of theories, that if you somehow distort normal function, that you must be sure to restore it with a counter-suggestion. And that all depends. If, for example, this lady had a history, a pattern of stuttering, and I'll check that out right now. I should have done it before. Did you ever have any speech problems in the past?
No.
See, when I said, how long have you had this problem, she said, I never did before. But suppose for many years she had been a stutterer and had a lot of therapy and so on, and now I give her that thing. Theoretically, if I didn't remove it, it might trigger her back into the old pattern of stuttering, you see. But watch now, and you'll see that all that information is available to her now because she's no longer here, and the creative intelligence now knows that she's not expected to respond in that way. How much is 2 and 3? What is your true and correct name?
Charlie.
Yeah. So you see, again, there's a lot of misinformation, including by those who know. Much that's been written about hypnotism was written by people who wrote what someone else wrote, and it just goes back and back and back and back and back, and no one ever sat down and really originally said, is this the way it truly is? Now, one man came along and he did things in a different way. Part of it was brought about by the fact, especially in his later years, he was in a wheelchair and he had some paralysis in his vocal cords and so on. That was Milton Erickson. And he did things in a different way than had been done before, and of course it brought him fame and reputation. A couple of other questions as we close this segment.
Could I get a clarification on that? On some of the others that you put in a deep sleep, you counted to 3 or tapped their forehead or something in order to get them out. And what puzzled me was, some you did, or most of them you did, but on these particular 2 you didn't, and I'm not clear
Okay,
yet.
that's a good observation. I have not done a formal trance termination. Here. Now, sometimes you see me say, when I count from 1 up to 5, your eyes are open, and so on and so on and so on. I'm also trying to demonstrate where is the line between trance and non-trance. And it's a very thin line. Because if trance is a natural state of mind, then it's okay to be in trance, and the fact remains that you are in trance almost every day at one time or another, maybe for a second or a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. How many in this room were ever known to walk in their sleep at any time in your life? Wouldn't you characterize that as a trance? And we don't even know what causes it. In a conversation last night, Jack told me every member of her family and their 7 children are all sleepwalkers. So it must be something that's in the genes. Now, if you've ever walked in your sleep, you have engaged in trance behavior. If you've ever talked in your sleep, you've engaged in trance behavior. What is trance behavior? Critical factor of the conscious mind is set aside, and the other level of mind is focusing and functioning easily and effortlessly. Is that clear? You nodded your head. Yes, it is clear. Is it really clear?
Pretty clear.
I want to thank both of you. Just sleep. That's it. Relax. Way down. That's it. Have a nice rest now. Just sleep easily. See, they don't have to stand up for a handshake. You can sit them down for a handshake. All right. We're going to close down this segment in just a moment. And when I count to 3, these 2 ladies will sit up and open their eyes and feel wonderfully good, better than they felt in a long time. 1, 2, 3. Eyelids open. Sit up now. Did you know what I was going to do when I came over there?
No, not really.
Yeah. And you?
Not for sure.
Did you have any idea that I was coming over there to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one did and one didn't. All right. We're going to take a break now, and we'll resume in just a few minutes and get into our next segment. So for now, we'll close down.